Hello again. This is Middle Age Gaming 2020 with another exciting episode for you.
That's right, today's feature is the Gold of the Indies, where we share some of our favorite indie games.
That is correct. And today's three categories are simple enough: one old game, a current game, and a new one that we are looking forward to. So, Krian, would you like to start us off?
Sure, I'd love to start us off. Too early to be catching myself like this. Alright, today I'm going to be talking about The Darkest Dungeon. It is a game by Red Hook Studios. It has been published by Merge Games. It is a macabre turn-based dungeon crawler roguelite. Well, that is a mouthful. You lead a band of heroes into a dungeon and try to survive while acquiring the usual loot, armor, weapons, that sort of stuff. A core element of Darkest Dungeon is... Huh. I just see there is no video.
Uh-oh.
Why is that?
Well, we seem to be streaming at least.
Yes, at least we seem to be streaming. That is wonderful.
Nobody's
Uh,
watching yet.
that is good. Why are you... Why is... This is just a horrible day. Ah, what? I loaded all of these in yesterday.
They're not in there?
No, they... Alright, let's try this one.
Sorry for anybody who's not currently watching, but is watching this later. We are having some technical difficulties.
Yes, we have. Alright, I'm gonna switch to you and see if your stuff works. What?
All
What
right,
is
so I
your
can
stuff
put,
working? Mine's doesn't.
I don't know. I say, should I go? But then you can't really work in the background. If
Alright, let's unlock this and see where is this video. Oh, that's why. Ah. Alright. Okay. Now I know how. Okay. Okay. So, apologies for that. So, Darkest Dungeon was, as I was saying, it's a roguelite. The core element of it is its affliction system, a concept of a hero's stress level or resolve. Stress is affected by things you encounter, people getting hurt or wounded. Some afflictions left unchecked may become permanent quirks that remain on the character. I played this. I've never finished it. It's really cool, really fun, but it's very dark, very difficult as you get towards the end, and it sort of feels like we'll get into this later when we talk about easy mode. It feels like it's like you're just fighting uphill all the time, and as you keep fighting and bad things happen, and for me, someone like me who loves to save scum, who hates bad things happening, this is just the wrong kind of game for me. But I mean, it was fun, really cool art, really cool loot system. Um, it's definitely for someone who likes the art style, definitely for someone who's really into roguelite games, because you can change characters all the time. When someone just has too many bad things, you can kick them out of your party. And yeah, it's turn-based as well, so if you like turn-based, it's really good. But if you really love sort of increasingly difficult games, and I would even say there's a few difficulty spikes in there that if you don't mind that, definitely go with it. Really small studio. They're coming out with Darkest Dungeon 2, I would say probably next year. They've only released 2 games. Definitely give it a go if you like it. It's available on every platform, including Android and iOS. Again, only for tablets. So Adam, thanks for bearing with my technical difficulties.
not a problem at all. So, all right. So this is kind of like a Diablo kind of thing.
It's a 2D side-scroller turn-based RPG. So not like
Okay.
Diablo.
Now, is it multiplayer or just a single player?
Just single player. I would have thought you'd have played this actually.
No, I've never actually heard of this.
You've never
Darkest
actually had a
Dungeon.
Darkest Dungeon? Oh,
Wait, Red
okay.
Hook. Oh no, I'm thinking Red Candle. Okay, I was like, wait, is that the Taiwanese developer? No, 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 no. No, I haven't played Darkest Dungeon. For some odd reason in my mind, I keep thinking of what's it called? Dungeon Master or whatever. It was like an old PC game where you could create your own dungeon.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so this is kind of like a kind of like Amnesia, where they have like the sanity meter kind of thing.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, I've never played Amnesia, but yes, you do have a sanity bar, and as it goes down, like your guy does like stupid stuff, he'll refuse to fight, and that kind of stuff just irritated me, which is why I've bought this twice, once on PC, once on iPad, and I've never finished it.
Oh, okay, interesting. So how does loot work? Like, is it like a traditional kind of RPG where you're equipping like weapons and stuff like that, or?
Yes, yes, yes. You've got weapons, you've got armor. Each you have different classes of guys, and they have their own stuff. And as you go through dungeons, you get new things and old things, and you get magical items. It's loot is definitely pretty good if you love loot. This is pretty awesome.
Oh, okay. And you get a party. It's not just one
Yeah,
character.
it's a party. So when you start off the game, you start off with a single character. And as you play, usually about after 2 hours, you get up to the standard party of four. There are expansions and stuff, but I still think it's still for people. But they add more content, more levels, and of course, for the people who love difficulty, really crazy difficulty in the most recent expansion.
Okay, so these are like pre-rendered dungeons. They're not procedurally generated,
Yes,
or is it more
pre-rent.
like a?
No, no, no. They are procedurally generated. I wanted to say pre-rent. No, they're
Okay,
procedure because so
so
every
it
time you
is a roguelike.
yes, yes. So every time you play, you do fight different dungeons. Some parts may look the same, but the combination of them is different, and you get to choose where you go. So when you start off the game, you don't actually get to see it in the trailer. It sort of has like a path, and you can go straight or you can go right, and depending which way you go depends on the monsters you fight and the dungeons you see and the loot you get.
Okay, so how do you know which path you want to take?
You don't. You just literally. It's just guess. You do later on in the game when you get different gadgets. You get to sort of have clues about what is down this path, and you
Oh,
get to
okay.
choose based on that.
Can you backtrack and take another path, or once you
God,
pick one, you're kind of dedicated to that path?
I feel like you could backtrack, but again, don't hold me to that. It's very. I'm not sure. I don't remember ever backtracking.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to check it out. Yeah, I've not heard of this one,
It's
but
definitely
I.
something I think you would like it, but don't pay full price for it.
All right. Oh, wait, wait, wait. Darkest Dungeon. Maybe I have heard of it. I'll have to look it up. Because there was a game. Oh, no, no, no. I'm thinking of something else. Yeah, there was a game on the PlayStation, and they got rid of their wish lists. And I had a game on there that it was on a wish list. And yeah, now that they've gotten rid of wish lists, I was going through the other day, and I was going through all the game listing, and I'm trying to remember like, okay, what all the games were on my wish list. And then I have like a Word file now that I'm like writing down my old wish list and trying to remember it. So yeah. All right, well, I'll move on to my game. This is going to be a pretty
Sure.
short review because there's really actually not that much to this game. So my game is Fez. It is created by Polytron Corporation, and the publisher is Trapdoor. It was originally released back in 2012 on PC, Linux, iOS. Later on, it came to PlayStation and Xbox. And I'm not sure if there is a Switch version or not. There is a Vita version because that's the version that I have. So, yes, I do still play my PlayStation Vita. I'm one of the very few people that you'll see out in the wild with one. But basically, this game is it's very simple. Basically, you're a little dude living in a 2D world like everybody else's 2D worlds, and this, I don't remember what they call it, a dodecahedron or something, some kind of shape falls from the sky and crashes, and it causes all this kind of chaos. And then there's this little fez, those little hats that they wear in Morocco, and it's a magical fez that when it lands on your character's head, now his 2D world can shift in 3D. And so basically what happens is if you're looking at the trailer, you can kind of see, it's a typical 2D platformer. But what you can do is you can rotate the world to one of four sides. And depending on the way you've rotated the world, you can traverse it in different ways. So for example, if there's a platform, if you're standing here and there's a platform over there and you can't reach it, if you rotate the world, that platform will now be behind the level, but maybe it'll rotate that there's a staircase next to you and you can take the staircase up or something like that. So rotating the world is a really big part of this kind of puzzle element. And the way they do it is, you might think, oh, this is kind of hard, this is kind of punishing, but actually there are no enemies in the game. You have no lives. There's just, and basically when you die, you just boop, respawn in. So the focus of the game is really solving the puzzle and getting through the level. It's not the challenge of the platformer. And so because of that, it can actually be both a frustrating game if you can't really figure out what to do, but at the same time, it can also be a very relaxing game because there's really no pressure because you can't fail. You just fail this, you just don't succeed right now, and then just try again, try again, try again. So I would recommend this game for people who enjoy platformers, really old school Mario, Sonic the Hedgehog, that sort of thing. Also people who really like puzzle games like Intelligence Cube or Catherine. And definitely for people that have a lot of patience, because there will be times where you're kind of trying to figure out what you're supposed to be doing. And yeah, it might not seem obvious at first. And so you struggle with it. And then as soon as you figure out, you're just kind of face palming and, oh, why did I not see that 20 minutes ago? So
Great. I have a question for you about this. Have you ever played Monument Valley?
I've heard of it only because of that show, House of Cards.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, the president in that show really liked that game.
Because I had always assumed Monument Valley was the first game that did that sort of move the world around mechanic, but from what I understand, Fez came before that. Fez is a good few years old.
Yeah, it's 2012. It's already 8 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
Now,
So
Monument Valley, though,
yeah,
I think is a little bit different because Fez, you're just rotating the level.
yes.
Monument Valley, you actually manipulate the level in more than just rotation. And in that one, too, like
Yes.
this one is still a platformer, but Monument Valley is more of a puzzle because you don't really control the character too much, right? You just kind of rotate the world in such a way that it allows the character to move forward.
Yes, 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 yes. So, I mean,
Yeah.
because I had always assumed Monument Valley was the first one to do this rotation mechanic, and I've seen it in a few other games. And I've heard of Fez. I follow the developer on Twitter. Um, and I was like, why is this game so famous? And looking at it now, I'm like, oh, I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, because that whole
Yes.
rotation mechanic is very unique.
Yeah, it is really unique. There's another game I couldn't remember the name of it, so I didn't list it, but it's similar, but it's in that you move the level, but it's a 2D game, but you can actually grab the level and you have to kind of shift it around within the screen, and that will actually allow, for instance, maybe there's a bar in the middle of the screen, so you're on this side, you need to get to that side, but if you shift the entire level left, and then as you shift it, now your character is within one box. So yeah, these visual puzzle things, they're getting more popular, but they're still very niche. There's not a lot of them,
Yes.
but they tend to be pretty creative.
Did you finish this?
No, no, I just played it a little bit. Like I said, I have a Vita, but I don't typically just sit down and play the Vita. I usually reserve it for if, for instance, I have a class and then I have another class in 3 hours, but I have nothing to do in that downtime, and there's no point in going home, so I just hang out at school. Or probably the most I play my Vita is whenever we would travel and we were on a plane, and I would play it on the plane. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Um,
usually I play it on vacation.
do you know I mean, do you know the price of this at the moment? I mean, given that it's 8 years old?
It's relatively cheap. I got it for free because it was one of the PlayStation Plus games. I'd have to look it up, but I would assume it's probably in the $400 range for PSN on PSN.
So I did look it
So
up. Surprisingly, I thought this was on Switch, but you're right, it's not on Switch.
that's
Wow,
probably just too old.
it's cheap. PlayStation 4, $13 US, so that would be slightly less than $390 Taiwan.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
That's
pretty cheap. And I don't think it was ever all that expensive, but the prices come down. And on occasion, it does go on sale. Unfortunately, if you're a PlayStation person, you could probably still find the PS4 version of it. But like I said, I have the PSP version. I have the PS Vita version of it. And the PS3 version, now that they no longer sell those games on the PSN store, you have to go directly through their systems. I don't think it's ever going to be going on sale for those systems again,
Okay.
but there is a chance it could be on sale on, because PlayStation right now has been doing a lot of indie sales. So, and I've seen it a couple times on there.
Okay. So definitely one to look out for. I'm definitely
Yeah,
gonna keep an eye out for this. I gotta have to do some more research to see. Hopefully, if it comes out on Switch, I'd love to buy it.
yeah, it's definitely worth the price. It's one of those, sometimes people say wait for it to be on sale. This one is definitely worth the price because it's so cheap. And if it's on
Yes,
sale,
yes, yes.
you have no excuse for not buying it.
No, no, I definitely agree. Like I said, for Darkest Dungeon, get it on sale. Like this, I would definitely say for this price, for this, I mean, this kind of game, definitely worth it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, on to my current game. And this is a game that I have not played, so let me preface with that and say that I've not played this game. I have researched it, I have watched videos, I've seen people play it, but it's definitely a game I wanted to talk about. I've been waiting for it to go on sale for a while. It's a game made by a 4 players. It's only made by 4 people. It's the developer's name is cool. It's House House. The game originally started off as a joke. I think it was some kind of game jam, and then they turned it into a real game. It was released just last year, September 20th, 2019. It's on all platforms except Android and iOS, though I do imagine they will release it on there eventually. If you've never heard of this game, it's set in an idyllic English village. Players control a domestic goose that can honk, duck, down, run, flap its wings. The village is split up into multiple areas, each of which has its own to-do list. Definitely watch a YouTube video about that. You can see people playing and there's a list and you sort of go around and honking and jumping and making people scared. When enough of these objectives have been finished, you can move on to the next area, and that's pretty much it. It is an incredibly short game. So it's only 3 hours for the main story, 5 hours if you want to complete and do everything. So on Switch, it's $20 US. So if you do want to pay $20 US for 5 hours, that's something. So like for me, I wouldn't. That's not in my value equation, so to speak. It's really cool, puzzly, and not very difficult from what I heard. Nice, cool art style. I'm going to pick it up when it's on sale. Again, relaxing. Adam, would you buy a game with only 3 hours of playtime?
It would depend on the price.
Okay.
How much is this? Do you know?
$20 US on Switch. It's about the same on Steam.
Oh, for $20, no.
Yes. Yeah. So that's why
Not
I've
for
never.
$20. If it was, I'll continue.
Oh no. I was just gonna say like. I love the game. I love the art style. I mean, if there was for $20, if there were multiple ways to finish it, even though it was only 3 hours, I would say yes. But given that there's literally only one way to finish this game, it's not $20 is not worth it for me.
Yeah, $20 would be too much for 3. I would say if it was like maybe 5,
Yeah.
even maybe up as high as 10. But if it was like 5, that might be worth it to me. But yeah, 20 is too much. Especially when you have other games like, have you heard of a walk in the was it a short hike in the woods?
I've heard of the name. I've never heard of the game.
Yeah, it's another game that's really really short, but from what I've heard, it's actually very very relaxing. It's kind of a, it's literally a hike through the woods and it's kind of relaxing. And I'm pretty sure that one's is quite a bit cheaper as well. And then you also have games like Donut Country, which
Yes.
I don't think there's too many different ways to play, but that's definitely cheaper as well and has a very similar kind of artistic aesthetic. So, given all that, yeah, 20 would be a bit much for me. Why is any idea why they charge so much for it?
I honestly have no idea. I mean, maybe because I would guess if it was like a single player game, like Stardew Valley when it came out was just made by the one guy, and he charged $10 when it came out. But maybe because it was 4 people who made the game, did the music, did the sound, did the art, did the programming. Uh, Maybe that's why they charged $20 just to cover the costs and make it worthwhile for them, because they did make a fair amount. I remember at the end of last year, this had sold 1 million copies, so I guess 1 million people paid $20 for it.
Okay. Well, I'm just thinking Stardew Valley, you get a little more than 3 hours.
Oh God, yes. So, but I guess I don't know whether you found this a trend. It's that more and more people, I guess, our audience, the middle-aged gamers, find it hard to. They want to play games that are this kind of length and have that accomplishment of finishing a game, rather than pay $50, $60 for a game that they don't have time to finish.
I've definitely heard a lot of people who want to move away from open world games like Skyrim, and they're like, oh, I've definitely heard, at least in the RPG sphere, people wanting more of kind of that traditional JRPG linear game where they're like, especially ones with a definitive ending where it's like, I beat the boss, the game is over. Not this, okay, you beat the boss, but there's still so much to do in the world, explore. So I definitely have seen people saying like, I want something that's a little more definitive, and also too, like with games like this or Donut Country or a Short Hike, a lot of games where parents feel like they can play with their child, so they want something that's a little
Yes,
bit cutesy,
yes,
but of
yes.
course their children are probably not going to have the attention span either. If they're really small, it doesn't really matter how long the game is, because I mean, I remember us playing back Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, you could probably beat that game in what, 2 hours, and we would just play it over and 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 over again for a year, for years until the next iteration came out or whatever. So for a young kid, repetition on a short game isn't a big deal, and for slightly older kids, they might lose interest quickly and want to jump into a
True.
new game. So yeah, I could definitely see people being like, I would rather finish like 5 short games than have 5 games that I've only touched the first 10% of and never touched the rest of it. So yeah, there's definitely a market for it.
Yes. As that would be something we could talk about in an after the show episode is length in gaming, the changing of gaming length and what's value and that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, they're like TVs. TVs are simultaneously getting bigger and smaller, and we're losing that middle size. And games are getting simultaneously way longer and super short.
Yes, yes, like this. I was so surprised. I expected this to be longer when I was doing the research for this episode, and 3 hours was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I do like the name though, Untitled Goose Game.
Yes, very cool
Be-
name and so many memes with the goose and stuff. Quite funny.
And I mean, it's ironic because that's the title, so it is a titled goose game.
Yes. All right, what is your new indie game?
My new indie game is Windbound. I've mentioned it before, but didn't go into too much detail. Basically, when I had finished, what was the previous game that I was playing before Ghost of Tsushima? I don't even remember anymore. Final Fantasy Remake?
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake, yes.
Okay. Oh no, Desperados. I played that after Final Fantasy VII
Oh,
Remake.
okay.
So when I was playing Desperados, when I finished it, I said, "Oh, I'm debating whether I should play Ghost of Tsushima or Windbound next." Okay, and so Windbound, I haven't played it. I have it. I'm really excited to play it, but now Valhalla is coming out, so I'm gonna have to focus on that instead. But
Thank you.
basically, it's created by Five Live Studio. The publisher is Deep Silver, and it was released on August 8th this year. It's on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch, and it's kind of a Moana the game in a sense, but also it's a survival game. So basically what happens is you play as the main character. I can't remember her name. I don't remember if it's Kana or something like that. But you play as her. She and her people are kind of a seafaring group, race, tribe, and they're out at sea and a big storm hits, and basically a big monster comes out and smashes all the boats, and then everybody is kind of drifting off in the sea. And so she wakes up on this island, and she has to find basically a way back to her people. And the way you do that is you have to travel from island to island, go island hopping, activate these big towers, which will open up a portal, and then you go into the portal into the next zone. So all these islands are procedurally generated. So as you go through, every time you play, it's going to be a little bit different. You have to gather resources to improve on your weapons, so you can, go from a simple knife, and then later on get a spear, and then kind of get a spear with a bigger blade on it, kind of a halberd looking thing. Or you can get a sling and then upgrade to a bow. So there's all this upgrading things, eating food, having food, cooking food, gathering supplies, building up your boat. You start with basically a canoe is the best you can have, a little grass canoe. And then later on you can build, a bamboo canoe, and then you can add a sail to it. And then you can add pontoons to it to make it more of a catamaran kind of thing. And so that's what makes this game kind of interesting, is because in a lot of these survival games like Don't Starve, or what's the other one, 6 Days to Die?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. A lot of times what your character will do is establish a base, and then you can, hoard your supplies at the base. Well, in this game, your base is your boat. So you're going to hoard supplies on your boat. You build up your boat, build it bigger, stronger, and then, take it out and sail it off to the next island. And as you progress through the game, you're going to go through different biomes. So, you start off in kind of this, I guess you would call it kind of a Hawaiian kind of place. It's kind of a easygoing. We got some little pigs running around and whatnot. But as you go, you're going to face bigger monsters, harsher climates, storms, that sort of thing. So it is going to get progressively harder as you move on from area to area. And also between areas, so when you get to that portal, you go through it, you can kind of upgrade your characters. So maybe you might upgrade your life a little bit, or make yourself a little bit, do a little bit more damage, or have a little bit more stamina. So you can do a little bit of upgrades to your character. Now, there are two modes to the game. They are survival mode and story mode. And the difference is in survival mode, when you die, you go all the way back to chapter 1 at the beginning of the game. However, you can maintain anything that is what they call in hand. So basically what you can do is you can store some things on your boat, or you can hold on to them on your person, because your person can only carry so many objects with you. So you store your extra supplies on the boat. If you die, you go back to chapter 1, and the only things you have are the things that you're holding. Okay? Anything that was on your boat is lost. In story mode, what happens is if you die, you just reset to the beginning of that chapter. You don't go all the way back to the beginning of the game. But I do think you still lose everything that's not in your hand, although I'm not sure if your boat is destroyed or not. So, yeah. So if you're looking for a more relaxing kind of thing, go with story mode. If you're the kind of person that really likes to challenge yourself, those, what do they call them? Where it's a one death kind of thing?
Iron Man.
Iron Man, yeah. So this game is designed with Iron Man in mind.
Yes.
But yeah, so these are for people that, I would say this is really for people that like games that are survival games. And that can be really hard ones like Don't Starve, or simpler ones like Minecraft. So if you like those kind of games and you like kind of the exploration of, say, the Wind Waker, then I would say this is probably a good game for you.
Okay, I mean, I've got to say, like, this is an exception to all the games we usually talk about. Is I usually have barely heard it, but this one I've actually read a review because I was thinking about buying this on the Switch. Adam, so in that vein, so this trailer, is this a PlayStation trailer?
Yeah, this trailer is from the PlayStation.
Okay, do you know what are the visuals on the PlayStation like? Because I'm looking at this trailer and it looks fairly similar to the Switch, and I'm kind of wondering. I thought they would have upscaled things for the PlayStation.
No, they kind of went with more of a simplistic Breath of the Wild, not maybe Breath of the Wild, but kind of a Wind Waker kind of aesthetic.
Okay.
So I don't think that the PlayStation really needed. Yeah, because they went with that aesthetic, I think maybe the PlayStation was probably overpowered for what they really needed it, so
Okay.
a Switch can handle it just fine. It's kind of like, have you ever played a Katamari game?
No, no, no. That's been on my Switch list to buy as well.
Okay, so the Katamari games are specifically designed to be as simple as possible graphically, and that allows your ball to get super, super huge. And I think this one is kind of a similar thing, where they just wanted very simple graphics so they could focus on other aspects, like having a much larger world because it's procedurally generated and you have to sail from island to island. And so I think they kind of made that trade-off where they're like, hey, let's give it kind of a cute graphic but relatively simple graphics, and in exchange we're going to be able to build this much more, I guess, not necessarily intricate, but this larger, more fleshed out, procedurally generated world.
Okay.
So
Will you be playing this on survival?
no, I'd probably play it on story mode.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't think
definitely
I'm
for
good
me,
enough.
sure too.
Yeah, I mean, I like survival games, but having to go back to the beginning, I think just playing it on story mode and having to reset it to the beginning of the chapter, I think that's going to be enough survival for me.
Yes, like reset to the beginning of the chapter and you lose all the stuff that's not on your person. That is like, oh my God. But I think I'll only get this, who knows, next year. If it goes on sale for a like a really cheap price, I'll consider it. But I mean, given all the stuff that's coming out between now and the end of the year and next year and PlayStation 5 stuff and who knows.
Oh yeah, I got so many PlayStation 4 games. I'm kind of glad that the PS5, I should say but I don't have one. I'm kind of
I'm
glad the
sorry.
PS5 is backwards compatible with the PS4 because when I transferred from PS3 to PS4, I actually didn't have that long of a backlog. I did have a few PS3 games that I wanted to get to. Most of them were like free games that I had gotten on the PSN that I would have never bought myself. But I did go back from the PS4 to the PS3 a couple times, particularly for the Mass Effect trilogy. I had to go back to the PS3 and play it.
Okay.
So being able to bring my catalog with me to the PS5 is going to be nice just because I don't have to toggle between two systems. I can just sit there on one system and just handle everything. Um, but at the same time, it just means that I'm going to start off with this huge backlog.
The PC gamers, oh, infinite quandary. I've been a
Oh
Steam
yeah,
member
the Steam
for
library.
15 years, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
All right, I'm moving on to my future game.
Okay.
My future game is My Time at Sandrock. My Time at Sandrock, if you would have remembered a previous episode where I talked about My Time at Porsche, it's made by the same company, Pathea, out of Chongqing in China. It's this almost on the Kickstarter page. It is said that this was supposed to be an expansion to My Time at Porsche, and while they were working on it, they were like, "Oh my God, we like this idea. Let's just make it a whole new world." And one of the core facets of this game, that one of the reasons why they wanted to do this as a Kickstarter, is that My Time at Sandrock is going to have multiplayer. And if you played My Time at Porsche, loads of reviews on Steam would say, "Oh, we wish this was a multiplayer game." I was going to say my Stardew Valley. No, Stardew Valley did multiplayer, and that was quite a big thing for a lot of people to be able to play with their girlfriends, friends, college roommates. So this is a thing. Uh, I have to say this beforehand as well as a disclaimer. I've already backed this on Kickstarter. As always with any Kickstarter games, you should be careful when you back stuff. Who knows if it can get finished or not. Um, I loved My Time at Porsche. I've watched the trailer. I've read the Kickstarter campaign. And I think it's going to be awesome. It's more of the things I love. They're going to have more romances, more mini games. They're going to have a little cool car buggy mini game. Um, at the moment, they only needed 100,000 US dollars, so it's already passed it. So guaranteed, this game is going to get funding. But like any Kickstarter game, even though it has funding, it could still fail. I've backed 2, 3 Kickstarter games, despite having been fully funded, they just failed because of legal issues, because of fighting, in-team fighting. They could be delayed. So just please keep that in mind. This is gonna explore more of the things you like in From My Time at Porsche, more relaxing. It is also an indie game. I told Adam I saw a picture of the studio. There's like 15 people. Expected to be released March 2022. I will say My Time at Porsche, which was also a Kickstarter game, that one was released on time as well. It was released in 2 years. This is supposed to be 2 years as well. I mean, because the Kickstarter will end next week, and they'll say it'll release March 2022. There is a Steam early access that you can join from next year, March 2021, because they do have, I would say it's an alpha build from what I saw on the website. I could be wrong. But the big core thing of this is that it's multiplayer. That's the big thing. You'll be able to play with friends up to 4 people. Expanded universe, much bigger, more dungeons, more things to build, more things to farm, more animals to raise. It's just all the things I wanted from my time at Porsche, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to hopefully it gets done on time. I actually kickstarted a Switch key because I played this my time at Porsche on PC, and I think as this on a Switch would be much more fun. What do you think, Adam?
So, okay, so they're obviously adding multiplayer, but how is that exactly going to work? Is this going to have, say, one save where it's a two-player save, or is it going to be more like, say, a Dark Souls thing where you can kind of hop into somebody else's game, but you're just kind of playing as a sidekick? You're not playing as a main character. Have they fleshed out how any of the multiplayer works?
Well, as far as again what I read on the Kickstarter page, it's going to work very much in the same vein as Stardew Valley, where somebody starts a multiplayer game, you join that person, the game is saved locally on their machine as a multiplayer version of My Time at Sandrock, and you have the options of working on one farm together, or you have the option of you do your farm, he does her farm, and you guys work together in the same persistent universe.
Okay, so could if say if we started a save together,
Yes.
would it be possible for you to play if I wasn't playing and my character's controlled by an AI, or do you have to have two people playing
Um,
to load up that save?
so you have to have two people playing.
Oh, okay, so it just won't let you save unless you have two people in, or it won't let you log in unless you have two people
Yeah,
there.
you can load the game without the other person being there. It's sort of like this one I don't know, but I imagine it's like a lobby system, and if only the two people are there, you can actually go into your game.
Okay. Now, have they announced any other real changes other than the multiplayer, or is this kind of
Oh
more of the
yeah, I
same?
mean the multiplayer was the first because that was the whole pitch of the Kickstarter and the sort of the first portion of the campaign, and then there's the stretch goals which have gotten all the way down to it'll be more romancing options for sure. I think they're going to reach that Kickstarter goal, more mini games, more stuff. So I mean, a bunch of stuff. Basically, expanding my time at Porsche, more things to build, more things to farm, a whole new universe as opposed to being in Porsche at the same time, and you'll get people from the original game will come to your town as well. More things to fight, more weapons, just really fully expanded.
Okay, but I mean, are there any changes, or is it just kind of more of what you already have? Like, is it more expanded, or
Oh
are
yeah,
there like
oh okay, I
fundamental
see what you
changes?
mean now. Like fundamental changes, multiplayer, they haven't announced any other fundamental changes. No, no, no. Besides the multiplayer, just additional content.
Okay, so basically, if you played the first one, you kind of already know what to expect in this one. It's just going to have more.
Yes, yes, yes. The
Okay.
fundamental game will be the same, just like a lot of these sort of like farming games, Harvest Moon. Uh, Go to a place. Oh my God, it's desolate. Oh, things look terrible. You help build it up together, make it nice and beautiful, and then game over.
Okay. Now, would you recommend somebody who is looking to get My Time at Porsche? Would you recommend that they still get that one and then maybe move on to Sandrock later, or would you say, you know what, just wait for Sandrock and start in there?
If you're really looking for a sort of relaxing Stardew Valley-esque game, no, go for it. Get My Time at Porsche. It's definitely still worth it because I mean, you still gotta wait at least. I mean, they said March for the early access, and I think you'd rather wait for the full game. So you've got to wait at least almost 2 years to play this. You
So
could
March 2022?
to yeah, hypothetically speaking,
Okay.
I think given COVID, world travel and stuff, I still think it'll be delayed a little bit. That they were on time with My Time at Porsche. I mean, there's the chance it will be on time, but I think you better off getting My Time at Porsche, playing it, understanding the world, the story, and then getting My Time at Sandrock when it comes out. Do remember though, it will be uh, higher than what you do on Kickstarter. So the Kickstarter price for console is 25 US. It's probably, given the size of this game, they'll probably charge this as a full price game. My Time at Porsche was 30 US full price on Steam. You got it for 15 US if you backed it on Kickstarter.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'm wondering too. Obviously, for big publishers, COVID's having a huge impact on them because their offices have to close or whatever. But for a lot of these indie devs, I mean, these guys might not even have an office space. They might have been working at home all along, right? So,
Yes, yes, yes.
yeah.
But when they made
So,
My Time at Porsche, they all worked at their studio in Chongqing.
oh, okay. Do you know how
So,
many people are on their team?
15.
Okay, so with 15 people, it might not actually be all that hard to.
Yes, I mean it could come on time. I've never had a Kickstarter game besides My Time at Porsche actually release on time.
Okay, well, if anything, that's good news for them because they're the only ones that have done it before. All right.
Yes. Okay.
Sounds good.
I'm
Okay.
really interested in your future indie game.
Yeah, mine's another Chinese developer. We had a short discussion about that before class, but we'll save that for another time. So my game is Black Myth Wukong, which you might have seen on the internet. It's kind of been taking the internet by storm. They recently released it. I think it was like 18 minutes of gameplay or something like that. It's created by Game Science Interactive Technology. They are both the developer and the publisher. This game is not set to be released until 2023, so that's kind of a ways off, but it's supposed to be on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Currently, no mention of the Switch, and looking at the graphics, I don't think the current Switch could run it. Maybe the upgradable version will be able to. So who knows? That might change in the future. But basically, for those of you who are familiar with the Chinese tale Journey to the West, or rather, for those of you who are not familiar with Journey to the West, it's kind of the Chinese equivalent of the Odyssey. It's this great epic story where they traverse a huge area and have lots of little misadventures along the way. So it parallels the Odyssey in that sense. And this game is going to basically, the idea is they want to kind of create a Chinese God of War in the sense that God of War took Greek mythology and then kind of put its own spin on it. Kratos was an original character, but they put their own spin on it. They gave the gods their own unique personalities and did their own thing. And this is doing the same thing where if you watch the intro, there's kind of this old man and he's saying, "Oh, you've probably heard the story of Sun Wukong, but that's not the true story. Let me tell you what really happened." And so basically, the idea is, we have the legends of what happened, but of course, the legends have been romanticized and, filtered. And in reality, it was much grittier, much darker, and not as much fun as it sounds in the story. And so you're going to be playing through that version of the story. Now, it's going to be a Soulsborne game or a Souls-like game. So, lots of dodging and parrying and that sort of thing. You're going to be wielding the powers of Sun Wukong, which obviously I say obviously, but I feel like probably most of our audience might not know that much about Sun Wukong. So he has a staff that can grow to any size. It could be as small as a needle and he'll stick it behind his ear, or it could grow to the size of an oak tree and he could just smash you with it. So he's going to have that access to that staff. He'll have access to his transformations. He can transform into a little tiny bug and fly around the level, or he can try to turn into this bigger kind of buffed out Hulk form and become stronger and whatnot. So you'll have access to all those. Currently, we have not seen a lot of the other characters. I think Piggy's in it. He's one of the characters from Journey to the West, so I think he's still there. But this game is going to be for people who like Soulsborne games and for people that are kind of interested in Chinese mythology. If you're really interested, it's probably going to be about as accurate as God of War is to Greek mythology. But if you're the kind of person who's kind of already into it, then you'll see a lot of familiar faces and you'll see a lot of familiar situations. If you're not, then this might be a good kind of introduction. And then later on, you're like, "Oh, that's kind of cool. Let me look it up." But don't expect any kind of accuracy to the original tales there. So yeah.
Okay. I mean, to be honest, I've just literally been absorbed in the combat that's going on over here. I saw this briefly. I've never actually watched the full trailer, and this
Yeah, well,
looks.
yeah, that was weird because usually when they have a trailer for a game, right, it's like the other games that we've shown where they just show short clips of what's going on. This one was just a continuous. Basically, they showed you the first 18 minutes of the game, and that was the trailer. It wasn't edited really in the traditional kind of way, which on the one hand is really, really cool because you actually get to see gameplay in a trailer, which is extremely rare. But on the other side, it's in a way kind of worrying because it kind of makes you wonder how much of the game do they really have? Like, is that all they have? Is this kind of intro thing where they don't? And it already seems that Wukong has quite a few powers and stuff like that. So it is kind of an interesting thing. This is a ways off. We don't know too much about it other than what we've seen. So there's yet to see what really the final product will be like. But yeah, it looks definitely interesting and it looks solid. So
From what I'm thinking about this now, I think this might be like a prototype build, the kind that you take to investors, and you're like, hey, this is the game I want to make. Look at this. Give me some money.
it does look a lot like that, where you make the first level of the game, or you make
Yes.
kind of not a trailer, a pilot for the game, and you show them like, oh, here's all the moves, here's the stuff we can do, yeah, and then, so it does very much look like that, and because of that, we might end up getting something very different in the final product, but it's definitely something that looks like it's worth following and worth keeping up on and keeping an eye on. Another thing that I meant to mention and forgot was this is called Black Myth Wukong. The Game Science Interactive Technology their intention is to create a Black Myth universe. So Wukong is supposed to be the first game in this universe, and then they're going to expand it outward with other Black Myths, which should follow other Chinese legends. So you might follow Guan Yu or other characters from Chinese myth. So that's kind of interesting again because it's similar to God of War, where they started off with, say, the Greek mythology, and they kind of worked their way through the Greek pantheon. Now they're into Norse mythology, and I believe they've mentioned gods from the Egyptian pantheon and stuff like that. So it seems like they're going to kind of do this now. It does seem that they might be different in the sense that each Black Myth game might have a different protagonist, but they will be part of the same universe.
Hmm. Wow. I mean, it's really looks fantastic, and hopefully they can sort of keep the progress up. I mean, by looking at this, I mean, if they're a big studio, making a game of this quality and this size is still gonna take time. I mean, you look at Cyberpunk. How many years has
Yeah.
Cyberpunk been going on for? 5, 6 years. 2023 seems kind of ambitious, but I mean, we can hope for the best.
Well, and that's the other thing too is, I mean, we're looking at it and we're saying this looks like a pilot that you would show to a publisher or something like that. But really, nobody knows how far along they are.
True.
So they might actually be much, much further than we realize. And this is just the first thing they've released. So who really knows? It's just, at this point, looks cool, could be something amazing, could fizzle out like Kickstarter things.
Yes.
Hard to say at this point, but definitely keep your eye on it just to see where it goes.
Exactly. And that brings us to a close. Thank you for joining us. And if you missed us later, be sure to check us out on Middle Age Gaming 2020 on Twitch, at Middle Age Gaming on Instagram, at Gaming Age on Twitter, Middle Age Gaming 2020 on Facebook, and of course, just email us directly at middleagegaming2020@gmail.com.
And thank you for joining us today. Please feel free to leave any comments anywhere you can find us because we are looking very much to reading them. So please send us an email, comment on the YouTube, whatever you do. And we will see you soon.
Yes, we will stick around. We are going to be talking about easy mode in games. Adam's going to be talking about the PlayStation 5 loading times and
Yeah.
and what is the other news thing? I forgot.
Some of the features that PlayStation was touting will not be available on release.
Yes, yes. I'll be talking about the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. And our topic, easy mode, where we think about games having easy mode and difficulty in games in general. It's going to be an interesting show because we've changed the format a little bit. So stick around. We'll be back in about 10 minutes or so. Okay, see you guys later.